So today's podcast is what I have put in the thumbnail, whether Trump is manipulating Indian capital market. To understand the context, we have to understand the economics behind that, and also is there a larger picture? When I say larger picture, is it defending dollar? Is it defending dollar and just not manipulating Indian stock market on or Chinese stock market? Let's understand what is the current status of US economy, the key components, right? Now, if I have to just put down the US total debt, sovereign debt I'm talking about, it is USD almost 38.5 trillion US dollar, right? 38.5 US trillion dollar, and which is obviously 124% of debt to GDP ratio, which is obviously huge compared to US. US generally hover the GDP to GDP ratio around 0.9 to 1, but it has spiraled up towards 124%. Now it takes 1 trillion USD to service this debt, which is huge, significantly huge. Now just give an example that the US military expenditure is around 800 billion USD per year, and which is more than the next nine countries, right? Next nine countries. If I have just have to compare 10 countries, the top 10 countries military spend wise, right? So we see a lot of spend happening in the military. So by USD 1 trillion debt servicing profile, will there is a possibility to increase the interest rate? I will come to the next step. Like, what is the problem currently US is facing? Obviously, the amount of debt is huge. There's a significant strategy by China and other countries to de-dollarize, right? Both from the USD spot dollar rates as well as petrodollars. So significant amount of global global oil trades is being via US dollar. So we call it petrodollars, right? And also almost world's 80%, more than 80% it happens via US dollar. So we see a dominant US dollar in the global oil and trade market. Now, what we have seen over last 2 to 3 years, there's a de-dollarization happening across the globe, driven by China, driven by BRIC countries, driven by Japan, driven by Russia, and this has impacted US dollar. And the last 2 years, US dollar has not grown, and actually it has dipped, right? Almost 6 to 7% negative dip. So that's a concern from for Trump. Now he has two options. One option is to increase the interest rate so that more people or more investors invest into the treasury bond or US sovereign bond market so that the dollar price increases. That's option number one. But the problem with that is that US have $1 trillion annual debt servicing rate, right? Annual rate. And if Trump increases the interest rate, it will impact their economy. Or that's really unsustainable, right? That's option number one, which is obviously not possible. And option number two is going for austerity drive, cutting the expenditure on military or social security, and obviously that will impact the economy because inflation will rise. There will be a lot of we had that problem in subprime crisis, right? That's why they have done that. So that's a core problem, and they cannot do that either. So the best way to increase the tariff, and the tariff will have a short-term fix. That tariff will bring them a revenue which will actually fuel their economy. So that is the short-term fix. Now, there's a bigger conspiracy apart from the tariff. There's a bigger conspiracy how to bring investment to US. Like I will just take an example of India. We have seen a significant, almost 8 to 9 lakh crores foreign investors going out of India and investing in US, and that's a problem, right? That's a problem because when foreign institutional investors go outside India, they will buy dollar. Go outside India, when I say goes to US, they will buy dollar, sell rupee and buy dollar, and that's how the dollar price will increase, and also their investment will increase, right? So this is one strategy which Trump is playing for last 1 year against India, and that's a bigger picture I'm trying to tell that Trump, apart from tariff, is actually playing his information warfare, which is manipulating the Indian capital markets such that a lot of FII out of India. Now the problem is it is not a reform approach, right? Otherwise, the FII will lose the money. So what he's trying to do is he's taking a step up, step down approach, right? He's giving some positive news, giving some negative news. So some of the FII exit, then he's giving them some positive news, so that some of the FII can again invest and do the positioning, correct the positioning, and Trump is again providing the negative news. So more FIIs exiting the Indian market and investing in US market. So he is actually giving the FII, US based FII, a cover. That's number one, financial cover, and number two, positional cover. Right, the whenever I invest, I create a position in the stock market. So I'm not going into deep. So these two approaches he is trying to take, and actually safeguarding the FII interest, but not safeguarding India's interest. So I will provide you with data. Let's look into the data, right? So so another thing that has happened, which is very important for which obviously has provided with some degree of cushion or maybe some degree of effort to US, is that they have around whatever, right? We have seen a significant amount of gold buyout from rest of the world, right? China leading the path, buying around 400 tons of gold. India around 50 tons of gold, right? 50 tons of gold, and total world bought around 800 tons of gold. And sorry, India bought around 100 tons of gold out of those 800, right? And it was led by the BRICS country. Now, increase of gold purchasing vis-a-vis dollar selling, right? We are selling, and we have dumped around 50 billion dollars of treasury bond, US treasury bond, and China has dumped around 400 billion. So there's a two-way scenario. Rest of the world, not the NATO countries, not the European Union, they are dumping the US treasury bond and buying gold, right? This is a phenomenon which is also creating pressure for dollars. So these are the two factors which is creating problem for Trump. Now, what Trump has done, the primary question, is he manipulating Indian stock market? Is he manipulating, providing a cover or positional cover or financial cover to the FII so that they can exit India in a more profitable way, right? Now, what I have done, so I have came up with few companies, though these are the companies I am not quoting as the perpetrator, but I am just quoting as a my research candidates, right? Blackstone, Apollo, BlackRock, Vanguard, Bank of America, Bain Capital, KKR, TPG, Vista Equity, Affinity Partners, and Tribeca Developers. I'm coming after this, explain later on. These are the either they are funds or PE funds or house where Trump has have some degree of leverage, a controllable leverage. He doesn't control those, but have a significant amount of investment into those companies, right? Now, when I go to those, when I see the records of those companies, and I take the data from 1st April to almost 8 January 2026. So 1st April 2025, 8 January 2026, there were 49 events. I call it events where I felt that there has been a manipulation, market manipulation, either through insider trading or through information biasing, right? Now, what I have seen or what I have taken in those 49 events, which companies sold, before Trump bad news. When I say sold, it has decreased the stake by 1% or more in Indian capital market in one day. So the companies which has decreased stake more than 1% in Indian capital markets in one day, just before Trump's bad news. So this is an event of a selling, like I make the profit booking, right? This is one event I'm trying to call. Then event number two or event type two is which companies bought before Trump good news, like which companies had bought more than 1% stake before Trump good news about India. When I say good news, which it means India's, right? India related. So I will give an example. So 3rd April, Trump says that I am declaring 25% tariff on Indian. These are the sectors, right? Now that's the 3rd April he declared that. Then I see that which are the companies that has sold before that 1st April to 3rd April, before 3rd April. That means those information are being shared with those companies that I will provide you a negative information about Indian stock market, and you have to sell your stake, a significant amount of stake before that news. So he's giving a information. So this is insider trading, right? So that is a negative news they have to sell. Now there's another event. I will give an example. Then on some date in either May first week or May first week or May second week, he says that I am withholding Indian tariff for 2 months, right? Next quarter will implement. So this is a positive news for Indian stock market. And I see that which are the companies which bought the stake just 2 or 3 days before, or within those 2 or maybe 72 hours before that news come, right? So I have done all those things, and there were around 49 events, and I have taken those events. I have noted out of those companies who has done what. What I have seen are mostly the US based FIIs. When I say FIIs, it can be a fund house, it can be a hedge fund, it can be a PE fund, it can be a venture capitalist fund, it can be anything, right? So I have seen the correlation of buying or selling before the actual news happened is around 63%. Around 63%. If it was an unbiased market, perfect market, it should be around 0.1, 0.1 to 0.2. That's what we know from the finance, right? If it's a perfect market, unbiased market, the correlation of a news entering the market, near perfect, I'm not calling a perfect market, near perfect market is between 0.1 to 0.2. But here we are seeing that if I take all the US based FII firms, the correlation coefficient is around 0.63. Now, if I segregate the companies which Donald Trump has investments, some degree of investment, I see the correlation coefficient going up to 0.86. So from 0.663, it increases to 0.83, right? So this is a alarming data I have. I can share this data to anybody who are in the Indian regulators or anybody. This is the basic data I got from our market and from the news. Anybody can get this news, but this is the moral of the story is that there has been a fair degree of insider trading that has been done by Trump to provide a financial cover and positional cover for the US based FII. That's my finding. Now, coming to another important stuff, which is obviously the Tribeca developers, India projects in India. This I'm not trying to tell that there is some kind of conspiracy theory, but I just giving a data, a fact. Now, Tribeca Developer is a company in India which has a partnership with Trump company, the real estate company that Trump's own. And this company, apart from their indigenous project, they also create Trump brand projects like the Trump World Center in Pune and all those kind of things they actually created. Now, if you see for the data, what I've seen that before Trump won the term two election, right, they have done only one project, which is called Trump Towers Gurugram, which was done in 2020, started in 2020, and delivery happened during 2024, 2025. But the rest of the three projects, if you see the year, Trump World Center Pune, Trump Residence Gurugram, 2025 additional three Trump projects, and which is, if you see the approximate investment, right? If you see the approximate investment, 2,500 crore, 2,500 crore, 6,000 to 7,000 crore. So significant amount of investment that happened after Trump election as a president. So is there a correlation also? Like they are getting the projects or they are getting or selling the projects after Trump winning the election and becoming the president. Is there some wrongdoing? I'm not saying there's a conspiracy theory. They might get a projects fairly by competitive bidding. I'm not saying that. But how this is possible that a company which actually invested in one Trump project in 2020 has actually invested three huge projects in a different category, right? So this is what I felt that providing information. I guess there are a lot of pondering has to be done, analysis has to be done. by regulators and other people or different investors and researchers that to kind of prove this theory. But according to me, this is my core message that I see there's a fair chance of Trump, apart from declaring tariff, he's playing with the news such that he's giving a financial cover and also a positional cover for the fund house which are based out from US. This is what I felt. Thanks for watching. Good night.